Hello everybody. Today we're going to be discussing quartz. Now here in Virginia, quartz was a widely used material. Now in today's society, we regularly do not see nappers use quartz. Quartz is looked upon with not a very good view. It's a very unpredictable, freeze crack laden, and just full of problems. It's a very, what's the good word? It is a very uncooperative material. It is not a beginner material, not at all. It is, I would say it would take you a couple, maybe a year or two to fully understand the concepts and techniques and different types of ways of napping quartz. It is, like I said earlier, it's an unpredictable material. However, due to, let's say, due to reasons that, even though in the archaeological record we have found use of stone tools utilizing quartz, the material is still, it is still in its infancy of understanding, because although we have countless examples of different artifacts being made and from different periods of time, yes, and right before the Columbian Exchange happened, it was still being used widely, especially here in Virginia and other different areas of the United States. However, today I want to discuss how you can nap it, the type of quartz that you're looking for napping, and what to look for, because the main part of napping quartz is not how you nap it. It's actually the material that you start off with. So here in Virginia, there are different varieties of quartz. There are some that are very homogeneous, very small grain structure, and very good napping quality. And then there's different types of quartz where it's more feldspar than actual quartz. And today I'm going to discuss what the Native Americans used, what they went after, and how we as nappers of modern day could understand their thought process when it came down to making their stone tools. So, I'm going to show off probably the worst examples of quartz that you do not want to deal with. If you're using natural tools, that's pretty much the only way you're going to be able to nap quartz. I will say that you can use copper, you could probably use aluminum, but natural tools, from my experience, are probably is the best way. I've found that it is more interactive and more capable of predictably napping it compared to using copper, and that's from my own experience. However, you might have a different experience if you're going to use it. Now, I'm going to start off with the different varieties. Now, there are a couple, and I have them right here that these are some of the varieties of quartz that the Native Americans took advantage of. And they quarried it, they found many different types of quarry sites here in Virginia where either one of these materials was being quarried and used for stone tool technology. So, first of all, I'm going to start off with probably not the best napping. And that is going to be large grain quartz. So, this rock here was procured somewhere near, I would say Amherst County, Virginia. This stone has large grains, and is connected with a slightly homogeneous structure, but it is still very coarse and will definitely eat up your antler tools. This rock is similar to that. It has large grain structure, and probably one of the few tools that you could use to knap this would be wood. Now, I'm going to start off with, now we have the large grain right here, large grain quartz. And now I'm going to talk about the even larger grain quartz. As you can see from this here, this is very large grain. This whole rock is consistent of very large grain quartz. It is probably only going to be able to be knapped effectively, not just knapped by itself, but with wood. And you would probably only use this type of variety to make really big tools. And now I'm going to show a different example. This example is also a large grain. However, it's more crystalline. All of these are crystalline in nature. However, some of them are more crystalline than others. Now, this right here, this block I found near my area in Forest, Virginia, and it can be knapped. There's some spots in here where the material has a very fine crystal structure, and then there are some spots where it's very large grain and you wouldn't be able to make too much out of it. Now, on the opposite side of the spectrum, we get into fine crystalline quartz. Such examples like this. Very crystalline, very smooth and waxy. This was the type of quartz that Native Americans predominantly went after. And unfortunately, this is mixed in with field quartz that is very large grained, and it is not typically knapped. So most of the time, field quartz is not what the Native Americans was going after. Typically, what Native Americans went after was stuff like this. This is top tier boulder quartz. This is a large boulder that is covered in iron oxide residue. And the reason why it has iron oxide residue on the outside, the patina, is because it eroded out of a clay bank. The original rock, I found this inside of a red clay bank, and it is by far some of the best knapping quality quartz that I have worked. And this is some of it. As you can see, extremely fine grain, very crystalline, very waxy, very good material. This is the kind of stuff that the Native Americans went after. Not because of its color or its quality, but because of its knapping capability. Any one of these stones that I showed you, they can be used to make something. However, for the very sharp, very fine, and very artisanal arrowheads, this is the material that the Native Americans were after. This is what a lot of quartz clovises were made out of, that were found. And you would be thinking, why would the Clovis people use quartz as their material to make their points? And some of these points are about this long, made out of quartz. And if anybody that has worked quartz before knows that getting a piece that long is extremely difficult. But the Native Americans took advantage of it, and they used it. Now, how prolific it was in Virginia is very prolific. It was a very high sought after stone for small projectile points. So arrowheads and atlatl dart points were a lot of them were made using quartz. And for bigger material, or for bigger stone tools, the Native Americans here in Virginia used quartzite. And they started using quartzite more so around the same time, right near the Columbian Exchange, because what was happening is that chert, jasper, and chalcedony deposits that were here in Virginia were exhausted. For the most part, the other materials that were used were sometimes argillite and rhyolite. Rhyolite was in Mara Mountain, North Carolina, and then argillite was in Pennsylvania. So for a good ways of distance, Native Americans weren't able to find too much tool stone until they started taking advantage of quartz. And in this video, I want to show how you can process quartz into a very well-crafted arrowhead. Let me get my tools. So, to get started, I want to show you a spall. So this spall came from boulder quartz found in Forest, Virginia. And I will say it is like that boulder that I showed you that was very fine crystalline structure, is this right here. The only material that is better than this is actual crystal quartz. This type of quartz right here is by far the best material you're pretty much going to get here in Virginia when it comes down to quartz. Now, the Native Americans, I believe I've already went over this, but the Native Americans went after boulders of quartz. And the reason why is because on the outside would have freeze cracks, fissures, and other inclusions on the outside because it's been weathered. But by the time that you get to the middle, it would have less freeze cracks. It will have a more homogeneous grain structure and silicification. And that is what they used a lot for their arrowheads. So for this spall, I am going to take off a couple of flakes, and I'm going to see if I can make an arrowhead just from this one chunk. And I know I'm going to be able to make an arrowhead. I know that. However, with quartz, you have to knap it in a way where you quit while you're ahead attitude. And the reason why is because this material, like I said earlier, is unpredictable. Now, when you get to this higher grade quartz, the predictability greatly increases. But you still have a greater degree of unpredictability. So took a flake off, and there I have a flake. Now that I could probably turn into an arrowhead, but I'm going to continue on Right now I'm just abrading, making sure the edge is nice and strong. Okay, so that was a pretty big flake. Took it off right here. That would be very nice for Arrowhead if it was still intact, but I guess there was a crack. Now, both of these pieces can be used to make an Arrowhead, and especially this one right here. Now, I can see there's a crack running through the middle right here, which isn't good, but I think I can take advantage of it and see if I can manipulate it so I can have a large, almost bifacial piece. And what I'm going to attempt to do is I'm going to attempt to split this in half. There's a crack running through here, and I'm going to strike it right there and hopefully split it in half. And because I split it in half, I have it a very good long piece I can hopefully show y'all. I didn't split it in half, but I got a very good piece. So I'll keep that one. And the arrowheads that they find here in Virginia that are made out of quartz, they can be as small as a dime all the way up to atlatl dart points, which is fascinating. The reason why I think that's fascinating is because that shows the type of quartz that was available. So, you know, there are smaller pebbles around here in Virginia. There are big pieces like boulders. And depending on how that quartz was used, determined what it was used for. Now, for bigger pieces, I will say that is the hardest to make. Trying to find a piece of quartz that does not have freeze cracks in it and or large inclusions is extremely hard to find. Now this piece right here, I think I can turn that into an arrowhead. And first off, we need to analyze the stone. And for analyzing, I see that there's a high mass right here. There's mass right here, mass right here, mass right there and there. Now, I don't see too many cracks in here, so I think we can make a whole piece. But you should always, when knapping quartz, keep in mind that there is a possibility that your whole piece can split in half from a single strike. That is why a lot of points that were made from quartz were utilitarian. They were expediently made and did not have very fine edges on it. And the reason why is because of the material. I mean, I think they would make very fine points if this was a top-notch type of chert. But this is quartz, not chert. This is a microcrystalline rock that grew inside of a deposit. This is the type of stone that they were working. So, depending on the size, skill of the napper, and also the quality of stone, that determined the point, not the napper himself. Now, if you gave this material to a beginner flint napper, they would not know what to do. And the reason why is because this stone has so many problems, so many hiccups, that a beginner napper would not understand what to do. The reason why is because this stone, unlike flint, chert, or obsidian, has a learning difficulty or a learning curve that is not dependent on how effectively you use the rules of flint knapping to your advantage. It is determined by the quality of stone itself and the skill of the napper. And that's really it. You can have a piece of quartz that is absolutely riddled with cracks, and you would only be able to make small itty-bitty points out of it. However, if you get a piece of quartz like this that has a very homogeneous structure, has very little cracks in it, the possibility of you making a point out of it that is good looking, along with being extremely effective for hunting. Primitive Pathways is a YouTuber that has done a video about flint knapping quartz, and his demonstration of flint knapping quartz is very thorough. I like it a lot. It explains quartz very well. Right now, I'm focusing on thinning the point. So I'm preparing this edge right here to go into here, clear out this high spot, and then hopefully remove this area right here that is, so I can access this area right here, this high spot. Okay. Now, there's a bit of a deformity in the stone. So right here, we have a different kind of material that is not as homogeneous as the rest of the stone. It's actually very crystalline, and it's a bit freeze cracked actually. So it poses some difficulty for trying to remove this hump right here on this stone. I'm preparing an edge right here to try to conquer this area right here. And it didn't go very far. Let me pull out an abrader. I'm going to take advantage of this ridge and see if I can go through here. I don't know if you can see that, but that flake traveled all the way down the piece. Thin that area down. Now we can come from here and take out this high spot right here. Quartz is a very delicate material. It is brittle, but it's just as sharp as obsidian. Took off that hump. I can make an arrowhead out of that. Now I'm going to readdress the edges because our edges are very zigzagged and thick. I'm going to readdress the edges. Now, when working quartz, the goal is not for extreme thinness. The goal when knapping quartz is uniformity. So, you're probably wondering, what are you talking about uniformity? So, what I mean by uniformity, quartz, it is not prone to being thin. I mean, there are some examples where it is thin, yes. But it's not going to be as effective. If you're making an artistic version, I guess, for a quartz point, yes, you want it thin because it's supposed to be beautiful. Now you tell it, if you're doing it for utility purposes, you want it thick because you want to reuse it. And that's what a vast majority of the artifacts here in Virginia are made. They are made to be thick and have an edge on them, but not to be so sharp where it breaks, and not so thin where once it comes in contact with bone of the animal, that it would break in half. So I'm going to thin this point moderately. Not very much, but moderately. Hammer stone. And I'm turning my edge because this face is good. It's nice and flat. I'm turning my edge because there's mass right here. There's lots of mass. And I want to turn my edge from here to go here because, remember, I have this square section right here of different variety of quartz running through here. And if I were to try to turn this into a straight edge, it might break the point. So I'm going to take advantage of this side right here to come and send flakes this way to eliminate the mass. And I'm using a hammerstone to turn the edge.
And if I have to, I will use a pressure flaker as well. Because with quartz, your platforms have to be correct. You can't just do this flint knap quartz willy-nilly, because if you do, you will break it. I said earlier that this material is very brittle and is prone to breaking in ways that you don't want it to. So knowing that, you can actually take advantage of that. So quartz likes to be ground, not very much, but a little bit. It likes to have a lot of mass to carry itself, and you need a reasonably good mallet or billet. This is a white-tailed deer mallet, and this I've found to be the best when it comes down to knapping small points with quartz. Yes, you can use moose like this, but it's just too big for what you're working with when it comes down to quartz. So I've set up my platform right here, and it's near the center line, so it'll take off as much material as it can. And I'm going to come this way to eliminate the mass. Okay. So that flake went to there. Let's go beside it. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. So that flake went from here all the way to there. It took off a lot of mass. And the next platform is right here. Okay. And I'm just using a hammerstone to address the edge. Now I can see there's a crack right here going into the middle. So I have to be wary about that. And the reason why is because it could break my whole piece. And I'm going to get the pressure flaker and address this edge right here to come and conquer this mass right here. And I might be able to pressure flake this mass off. Alright, I was able to get a little bit off, but it's still deeply entrenched there. So I've addressed the edge to come this way, and I'm going to abrade it. And I'm going to strike it. Okay. I was able to take off a majority of the mass, but it's still, a good part of it is still there. Oh, that's what I mean by brittle. You see how that tip broke off like that? Even though my edge was properly set up and everything was right, it still snapped off the tip. That's why you have to be extremely careful with quartz. It's knappable. However, it's prone to breaking in ways that you don't want to let it break. Okay, so there's mass at the base right here, Now there's mass on this face right here, and this might be the time to address this area right here to get rid of that square edge, and to come back this way and try to eliminate some of this mass. Okay. Okay. So we've eliminated the square edge. Now I'm using the pressure flaker to turn the edge to the opposite direction. So I want to eliminate mass on the base right here. So I'm turning the edge this way. So I'll have a perfect angle to go this way. Now I'm shooting for uniformity in this piece. I'm not trying to get it as thin as possible. Quartz is not prone to being very thin. So I'm looking for a moderately thin point that I can use to hunt with. But the main thing that you want to have is uniformity. So straight edges. It can be thick. It doesn't matter if it's thick. Have straight edges, a tip, and good notches. That's what you want. I'm just abrading. And now I'm going to try to conquer this mass right here and get rid of it. So, okay. So that took off that. Okay. Took off that. That was a large part of that mass. Now, there's a bump right here on the edge that I need to get rid of with a pressure flaker. Because if I nap that, or if I try to hit that, it'll break the whole piece in half. And that's not what I'm looking for. And I also have to be careful with this next strike on this platform. And this is the platform right here. I've made an isolated platform. And I have to be careful with this strike because there's a crack right there. So I'm going to hit it, but I'm going to do it in a way where it doesn't break the whole thing in half. Okay. I hit it, and I took off some mass. Not a lot of mass, just a little bit. And I also have an edge prepared right here to take off mass right here at the tip. I'm going to look at it, see if there's any problem areas. There is a couple problem areas. So I'm going to take my pressure flaker and clean up the edge. Okay. Okay. And now I'm going to strike it. Okay. I removed a great deal of mass from that. I removed remove some more mass. Now this area that I was concerned with earlier, it's starting to break up in ways that I do not like. So I'm going to hold off on striking anywhere near this platform or these edges for now. And the reason why is because I don't want to risk breaking this. I say that, but I needed to get my pressure flaker and clean up the edge a little bit, because I still have some square edges and I need to remove those, because we're at the stage now where we're doing the primary thinning and we do not want to have square edges when we're doing our primary thinning. It will mess us up a lot. So we have eliminated a great majority of the mass through here. We still have a little bit of mass on this side, but I'm saving that now. We have a platform that I set up earlier that can help remove mass right here, which I'm going to take advantage of now. Okay, that's not good. So, did a hinge flake on me. See the platform right there? Hinged out. But luckily I have an area right here where I can come in as well, take advantage of the mask. But this time I will braid it some more. I think that was the reason why it hinged out, is because I didn't braid it enough. Okay. Alright. I remove that mass. And I do have a hinge right there, but I think I can get that out with pressure flaker. I don't think I can. However, we're getting pretty thin, and now the only thing I have any arguments about is right here. There's mass right there where the base is supposed to be. So I'm very tempted to prepare a platform on the base right here and strike and thin that out. I think that's what I'm going to do. Okay. Alright, I was able to remove that mass. Okay. So now we're at the point where, or we're at the stage now to start shaping it up how we want to. Because we've thinned it out moderately. Now we do still have some problem areas, however, that's okay. With quartz, you're not going to get everything perfect. So, I'm going to abrade all the edges. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm trying to determine which is going to be the base and which one is going to be the tip. This has a crack in it, so I'm tempted to make this the tip and this the base. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. You're probably wondering, why are you making the tip why is the tip going to have a crack in it? Or why am I going to make the tip where a crack is? Well, when you're notching, having a crack where you're notching is really annoying. So I'm just going to pressure flake all around the piece to start getting it uniform. Okay. Now this problem area that I have right here, it's starting to show its ugly head. I probably won't be able to make too many flakes on that area, because if I flake into that problem crystal area, I risk breaking the whole point. And I don't want to do that. I want to keep this whole. So I'm going to abrade this edge right here. Now where's the crack? Okay, the crack is right here. So okay. All right. So now that we have kind of cleared up the tip, I'm gonna pressure flake the base, get it nice and cleaned up. And I don't know which style I'm gonna go for, but that's okay. I might make a stem point, because this looks like an atlatl dart point to me. Okay. There's a little bit of mass in the middle, but that's okay. I'm not too concerned about that. It won't damage the point too much. It won't affect the uniformity, because the uniformity is what you want. Okay. So I've pressure flaked the edges. Now I'm coming in the opposite direction and pressure flake this way. Okay. As you can see, the whole side of the edge just blew off. So
Making a YouTube video.
How'd your presentation go the other day?
it went good.
Did it?
That was my stepdad. So we blew off that edge. But I'm able to recover from it.
You got one Saturday?
No,
No? She said you had something to do Saturday.
no, that was her imagination.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I'm able to recover. And actually that was beneficial because it helped me put a tip on this. So this is what we're looking at. Okay. Okay. Now, secondary thinning. I'm going to take a flake off right here and thin this out right here because I don't like how much mass is on that. So I'll get a smaller billet than the one that I had. This one should be good. In the world? Did I not abrade it enough? Okay. Trying to see if I can take off this little hangnail flake. It's right on this edge. But I don't think I can. I was able to. All right. So now I'm going to switch to a much finer pressure flaker. And the reason why is because now I'm not trying to remove as much mass as I was before. And I was able to clear up that crystalline pocket that was giving me trouble earlier. Now you see how uniform that is? That's what you want. You don't want to have a very odd looking shaped piece. You want it to be uniform and consistent. So now I'm going to switch over to this edge right here. I'm going to work that down for a little bit. Let's see what I can do. I didn't like that. Blew off the edge again, made it a square edge. So I'm going to come back. Get rid of that square edge. Okay. And then I'll just work some more off the tip right here. And then we'll be soon ready to put some notches in this thing. Get rid of that hang flake. And I gotta be careful around here because there's a crack at the tip. If I put too much pressure on it, it might break the tip off. And I don't want that to happen. Alright, gotta resharpen my tool. Okay, so that is situated. I was able to deal with that crack. Okay. I'm going to take off a little bit more on the bottom, and then I'm going to put in the notches. Alright, I think it is time for the notches. Okay. So here we are. Finished point. Very a thin point. Very sharp tip. Sharp edges. So I hope you all enjoyed this expose. Me talking about different quartz and its varieties and its difficulties. So either way, hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much.